And now, here are your hosts, the Schnitzel Boys.
McKennie, and again McKennie! Dos A CERO! Dos A CERO!
Dos A CERO!
Dos A CERO! Yep.
Willkommen to the Schnitzel Boys. We had a real Dos A CERO week. How you doing, Bjorn?
I'm doing great. My hat does not fit under my headphones, so I don't know how long this will last. But yeah, I'm great. I'm happy for you and the U.S. men's national team. It was a very convincing performance, and I don't know. It seems like U.S. men's national team Twitter doesn't know what to do with themselves.
We know exactly what to do with ourselves. Make fun of Memo Ochoa is what we know what to do with ourselves.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know the story, but Memo Ochoa...
Well, tell the story and I'll have opinions.
Well, Memo Ochoa said something a little cocky. Pretty much he's just like the United States sees something about, they look in the mirror and they try to match themselves to us. The greatness, the tradition of us. And then Christian Pulisic scored a goal, lifted up his shirt, and said, "Man in the mirror." As in a very, oh yeah, you look in the mirror and you see me scoring on your ass. As that ribbing continues and now adds itself another chapter in the great U.S.-Mexico Dos A CERO lure.
I guess
So
that's part of that rivalry, right? The pettiness has to be fully embraced. Like Miazga making fun of Diego Lainez being short, and now we have
Rafa Marquez trying to kill us at every game. Like there's just one. I recently rewatched the 2002 Dos A CERO, the most famous one of all, the one from the World Cup, and Rafa Marquez at the end just freaking like high kicks. Like he misses. He goes to Kobe Jones. I think he misses punching him, so he kicks him. Like he was just violently trying to tackle that guy. And I remember when Rafa Marquez played for my New York Red Bulls, one of the worst New York Red Bulls players of all time. I remember. I think I was there. I think I was there when all he would do is run on the field, if he was ever available, and just freaking grab people and throw them around. It's just like all he did. It's like, yo, you used to play soccer. Like at Barcelona, you didn't do that. At Barcelona, you played soccer or football.
That's why that's why his career lasted as long as it did, because it really wasn't about athletic skill towards the end of it. It was just he was just there to be mean and intimidate.
Well, I think he played till he was old. I mean, he was at the 2018 World Cup, I think. Off the bench at 39 or something. He played for Lyon for years after Red Bulls, and he did much better. Like literally the Red Bulls, and when he left, he made fun of the league. Just said MLS is this dumb amateur league. Bye bye, because he was a real piece of work all around. So I'm glad to say that this year USA and Mexico played each other 3 times, and the United States is 3-0, the first time since 1937. Do you remember that? Do you remember 1937?
Oh, that was the golden years. 1937. Ugh.
A young Charlie Chaplin was making movies, and USA and Mexico were just playing each other 3 times. People were going to ye old Columbus and ye old Crew Stadium to watch that. You know what's beautiful about this game? And I think we're going to talk Germany stuff, right? We're going to talk a little Germany, let's try a little Germany, Armenia, but maybe we'll save that for later. Or do you want to do that now? I think we should.
No. Dos A CERO is the news item of the week, and
let's talk.
I mean, and you are a genuine. I am a sympathizer. You are a genuine U.S. men's national team fan. I would say that Germany is my number one team, but so. No, let's go.
Would the United States be your second team, or you just like don't really care?
For a long time really didn't care, and now I care a little bit. I was excited. I mean, I definitely was.
This is why I wanted. This is why I was thinking of bringing a guest host tonight. I was like, we should get 2 Americans talking on this. I am a genuine American fan, and so the story goes. when I started watching soccer, it was just Germany because the United States didn't have much. This was in the '90s. The U.S. just didn't have much going for it, and I also lived overseas at the time. A little about me is I lived in Brazil at the time. So in Brazil, it's all about Brazil, and then even in Brazil, European football is like secondary. They just didn't care. So I was weird because I watched the Champions League and things like that. And, I really like Germany, and the 98 squad was my first German squad, which is a terrible squad to be introduced to as far as German soccer history goes. But I still had Bierhoff and Klinsmann and older Mateus.
Thomas Hessler was still hanging on.
I loved Hessler, but then the 02 Germany was a much better Germany under Rudi Völler. That got a little bit better. And then we had the reboot and stuff. So, but anyway, long story short, the 2002 tournament, I moved back to the United States on July 4th, 2002. And that was when Brazil won the World Cup. I was living in Brazil at the time. So Brazil was at a party. It was amazing to be in a country when they won the World Cup. The whole country was at the same party. It was so much fun. But the United States had a really good showing. They had a great team. I remember watching that USA, getting up early, watching that USA Portugal game. And that 2002 team converted me to be like, yo, I need to start following my boys, the U.S. And then I moved to the U.S. at the time, and so I forced myself to be an MLS fan because it was the only league on TV. And then that 2002 All-Star game was the MLS All-Star foreigners versus the 2002 team of whoever they could scrounge up. I think Tony Miola was in goal and things like that. So that's essentially the birth of my American soccer hood. Cut to 2010, I'm watching with my German parents. My German parents are German soccer fans. It's kind of like you, they're German, so they're German soccer fans. They're fine with the U.S. They watch the U.S. They sympathize with the U.S., but they're not like diehard U.S. fans or anything. They like the fact that a lot of the U.S. players play in the Bundesliga, so they connect them that way. But anyway, when Landon Donovan scored that goal against Algeria at the end, I freaking jumped out of my sofa and went, yes! Like screaming at my ass. And my parents just looked over because they could have cared less if the U.S. made it through the next round or not. So they just looked over and they're like, wow, you really like this team, don't you, or something. And that's kind of when I realized I was probably more of a U.S. soccer fan than a German soccer fan. Not that I'm against Germany, but Germany comes in a very close second to me. But as an American who always lived somewhere where people say Americans suck and you're not a real soccer country and boo boo, that really puts a chip on your shoulder to really line up and root for them. Not only am I fending off foreigners, I'm also fending off domestics. Like, I can't tell you how many Americans have come up to me and be like, U.S. soccer, don't we suck? That kind of stuff. In addition to Irish bartenders being like, you didn't qualify? Ireland would have qualified. Yeah, my ass. Ireland hasn't qualified in years. And then a bunch of like Romanians will be like, you don't know soccer, only we know soccer. And I'm like, oh yeah, Romanians? Other than George Hadji, what the heck have you ever done? So if, I am a proud U.S. soccer fan and I defend it with my heart. All my heart.
All right. Yeah, and I think that's I definitely sympathize with that. I think U.S. soccer fans, in my experience, often have a much broader view of world soccer, really, because they are watching Americans all over the world and have sort of. Honestly, when I was in Germany, I was watching Bundesliga. That was it. Like, I barely knew anything about
there's nothing else
other
on TV.
Countries. Yeah, there's nothing else on TV, and anything else you would see some teams during the European club competitions before Champions League, and so my knowledge, and then every once in a while a German, they have at some point they had a bunch of German players in Italy, but even so, I would not really, because it, like you're saying, it wasn't really available then on TV, and so I didn't really know. But
that's much. The point. That's the point, though. Like when I was in Brazil, it was just Brazil. There was the Argentinian league wasn't on TV, and if you're in Argentina, the Brazilian league's not on TV. It's just like traditional soccer powerhouses are that way because they have their own culture.
And they're like, oh, everything else,
same thing.
Yeah, it's like, who cares? Who cares about England? Who cares about But then you have this sort of myopic.
Mexico has that too, which is hilarious because outside of Mexico, no one gives a crap about Mexico.
Yeah,
what I mean.
Mexicans
are very proud of themselves.
Liga MX is not, it's the most popular league in the US. But
in the Americas, I think.
yeah,
Or something. Maybe North America, I should say. Chivas and Club America, but the thing is, like, they have that same mentality, but the difference is they have no trophies to prove it. You know what I mean? Perennial underachievers. Like when Marco Fabian left Frankfurt and came back to Liga MX, he's like, yeah, Liga MX is about as good as the Bundesliga is. That's what he said. And I was like, BS. It's like, you're the star of this league. You were on Eintracht Frankfurt as a squad player in Germany. You're not allowed to come over and be like, yeah, it's the same. You're not some Bayern München star. You know what I mean? So it's just very much, there's a lot of pride there, but I feel for whatever reason they just could never, like, they didn't really qualify for the next round games until the U.S. showed up. Like in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Other than the time they hosted, what have they ever done in a World Cup?
My first introduction to the World Cup was 1978, where Mexico was atrocious. They lost to Tunisia, which back then that was a huge deal. Losing to an African team. African teams generally back then came to collect double-digit defeats. So Tunisia beating Mexico was a huge thing, and then Germany, a German team that didn't make the semifinals, beat Mexico 6-0 in the group stage in 1978. So my introduction to Mexico was as a probably their worst showing in a World Cup. But you want to
find it funny.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, like my good friend who works for Volkswagen, his dad worked for Volkswagen. Volkswagen has a giant factory plant in Puebla, Mexico. The whole city of Puebla is essentially in Mexico, essentially run by Volkswagen. It's like a factory town. Kind of like how Wolfsburg in Germany is Volkswagen. Puebla in Mexico is like the Mexican Wolfsburg. Anyway, he moved there from Brazil. He's a Spaniard, huge Barcelona fan, was a big Palmeiras fan in Brazil where I was. I was a Corinthians fan. And he moved to Mexico, and then he would just talk to me all the time about how, like, just what Mexican soccer is like and how it's a big deal over there. But again, it's just so funny. Outside of Mexico, you have no experience with it. Very big fish in a very small pond. So the only reason I bring that up is because I hope, for Mexico to get better, they have to realize that. It's an issue they've known for years. They have to send more players to Europe. It can't just be Chucky Lozano, Raul Jimenez, and Hector Herrera. You got to have more guys over there. And you can't be comfortable in your own pond. That was MLS's issue, which is essentially why we failed the 2018 World Cup. Partly was not enough of our players were MLS wasn't letting enough of our players go and explore overseas and get better contracts overseas. And it's just, you got to strike that balance. In Mexico, if you want that quinto partido, you have to go to Europa. You have to go. More of you have to go to Bundesliga, like your friend Pavel Pardo or Marco Fabian or Carlos Salcedo did with Eintracht Frankfurt. You got to go over there. So this is my tough love.
That's your prescription. Friends. Your prescription for your rivals.
They got a fever, and the only thing that can cure that fever is going to Mexico.
Going to Europe.
Going to Europe.
Leaving Mexico.
Going to Mexico. On here,
You want to talk about the game? Want to talk about the game?
Let's talk about the game, baby. Let's talk about the game. I just have to air out my grievances as a U.S. fan with Mexico. So this was a big game because in 4 years, USA, Canada, and Mexico are co-hosting the World Cup. So there's no more qualifiers. And then in 2030, there's going to be a World Cup every 2 years. They're both going to have 64 teams or some crap. FIFA's preparing to ruin the World Cup. So this is the last World Cup with 32 teams and these kinds of qualifiers. So this game could very well be the end of an era. So you're going to end it right. You play in Ohio during wintertime and you win 2-0. And that's what our boys did last night. The first half, I would say Mexico had two of the better chances. It was
Zach Steffen coming up big.
Stepping up. He is going to play tomorrow against Jamaica. And he played against Mexico, and he was a freaking 10 out of 10, I think. Not only was his distribution excellent, which is why you play him over Matt Turner, his shot stopping was pretty on point, which is the one thing Matt Turner had over him. But last Friday night, Zach Steffen said, yeah, I can shot stop too. And that's exactly what he did. That placement, that I believe it was Tecatito, I think, soft placement was going right into the goal, and Zach Steffen didn't see it until very late. Slapped it out.
Well, I think
So
people get very polarized with this goalie decision, right? And so then they kind of exaggerate for dramatic effect, like saying, "Oh, Matt Turner can't distribute the ball," which is not true, and Zach Steffen can't stop any shots. So I mean, they're both good goalkeepers. It's a good problem to have. I definitely would have started Matt Turner if it was me picking the team, but Zach Steffen really, yeah, like you said, stepped up, played well.
Well, Matt Turner proved himself over the summer. So it's like, well, he did it once. Why change it? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Zach Steffen didn't play either game. He was injured. I mean, he played some of the Nations League final, but if you remember, he was injured. Ethan Horvath came on. So even Horvath was the hero of the Nations League. Matt Turner was the hero at the Gold Cup. So Zach Steffen, I guess, got himself an opportunity to be hero at the qualifiers. But Zach Steffen didn't really prove himself against Mexico. So that's why it was an interesting choice. But he put in the goal, and he proved himself. And he's also getting a start against Jamaica, which to me is also a little interesting because it seems that although there is slight rotation, it's pretty clear that Zach Steffen is still the number one under Greg Berhalter's eyes. And if he keeps playing like that, I'm perfectly fine with it. But again, Matt Turner's playing week in and week out with his club, and Zach Steffen is not. So we'll see if Zach Steffen can stay warm. But either or, he had a great game. He was probably the best player on the pitch, honestly, if I had to say so myself. And
Tim Weah would like a word, maybe, but
Tim Weah would be, I would say, aggressive. The how do I say this? The man of the match, like the favorite man of the match, the overstated man of the match is Tim Weah. Understated man of the match to me would be Tyler Adams.
I see.
Because he just proves time and time again how important he is. Him and Weston McKennie are the machine of the train that is the U.S. men's national team. Christian Pulisic's fun, but he provides a spark.
Yeah, I would say Yunus Musa is getting in there into that.
18-year-old Yunus Musa is proven to be a starter. This is MMA midfield. The McKennie, Musa, Adams, that's our midfield. And it's working. The three of them work well together. And the funny thing about that is, or not funny, but the great thing about that is, in today's modern era, is Gianluca Buzio is great. He's crushing in Italy. I hope we'll get to see him tomorrow against Jamaica, because Buzio has, in any other era, Buzio could very well be like team captain or something. He is just strong enough to be out there. Luca De La Torre isn't too shabby either, who isn't even called into camp this time. So not only do we have a strong midfield three, we have a pretty strong backup three in Kellen Acosta, Gianluca Buzio, and Luca De La Torre. Because I think when Kellen Acosta's focused on his game, he does a pretty dang good defensive midfielder, which he did over the summer against Mexico. Our wingers, excellent depth. Brandon Aronson had a great solid game like usual. Tim Weah could very well have been his best game in a U.S. shirt ever.
He's probably
Friday night.
He's going to have that starting spot, right, over Paul Arriola for the time being.
Well, we have to see what happens when Reyna comes back. I think that's sort of the when Reyna and Pulisic are healthy, what's going to happen with Aronson and Weah? That's that, again, great problem to have. As we're talking earlier with the goalkeepers, the U.S. men's national team is having all these great problems that we used to never have. We have 5 right backs. Joe Scally still hasn't played. We used to not have a left back. We have a couple left back options. We're probably light on the left back. We're a little bit light on the holding midfielder after Tyler Adams and then Acosta. You really don't have, Christian Roldan.
Jimmy Sands. What are you talking about?
Yeah, Jimmy Sands. He's a bun that has to spend a little more time in the oven. His only holding midfield time against Honduras was an absolute travesty. But he's called.
You take that back. That was not a travesty.
Oh,
that was a travesty.
Are you kidding me? Wait a minute. What game am I thinking? Panama? I'm thinking there's one game where he was out there as a holding mid, and it was terrible. He had to get pulled off at the half. It was either Honduras or I don't remember. It was one of the games we're not proud of.
He didn't get pulled.
You can forget all you want, my friend, but Jimmy Sands.
He didn't get pulled at the half. He played 6. He played 7. I know exactly what you're talking about. He didn't have a great first half. I'll give you that, but a travesty is overstating it. And he came back strong in for 20 minutes after the half before they took him out. I
Is this
disagree.
Honduras
And
or Panama? What are we?
this is Honduras. Yeah.
Because we won that game, but not not with his help. Anyway, James Sands is in camp, so he's there. He's back. He
They
can only
called
get
him.
better.
They called him in. Yep.
To take over suspended Miles Robinson. So anyway, our number 9 is a little shallow. We got Pepe after Pepe. We don't have much. I'm a PFOC fan. I think Hoppy's got a lot of potential there. But as far as people that are ready to play number 9 right now, it's Ricardo Pepi and then no one else, to be honest. So we're a little light on that. But the rest of the positions on the field, including goalkeeper, including center back, right, with James Sands and Chris Richards. I believe my boy Matt Miazga deserves another shot at some point. John Brooks is in great form. There is, he could have very well have been in this camp. He'll be in the next camp. Walker Zimmerman is crushing it. He is such a strong center back for us. We're not even missing John Brooks because of him. So the first half was a little bit like, okay, well, we'll do this. They had a couple chances, we held the ball, boop, boop, boop. And then second half, we came out running. I think after maybe one moment or two in the beginning, the rest of the game was all us. And then Christian Pulisic coming off the bench on his first touch, scoring a Clint Dempsey-style goal. A good old rough header placed right past Memo, man-in-the-mirror Ochoa. And then a few minutes later, we were very fortuitous. The soccer gods rained upon us this great opportunity for Weston McKennie to score a second goal in, to give us that 2 a 0. We have been longing for a long time.
Yeah,
we did not get it during last time.
That was a little fortunate.
We didn't get it over the summer. We didn't get it during the last qualifying round. It's been 2 qualifying rounds since we've had a good 2 a 0 at home, and it's nice to bring that back. And I think it is a representation of where this U.S. program is right now. We're sort of back to how strong we used to be, and there's only one way to go, which is up, my friend.
How strong how strong you used to be? This is as talented as I don't know, 1937 we were talking about. I don't quite remember. But
Bjorn, do you remember? I remember I was a little baby. I remember the 1930 World Cup. I watched it on. It wasn't 4K. It was 1080p back then.
The England game, the famed England.
No.
Oh, that was 1950.
You're thinking,
I'm sorry.
I'm talking 1930. Do you know where the United States placed in the 1930 World Cup? Trivia for you, my friend.
I don't know.
3rd place.
What?
Yep. The United States made it to the semis, where they lost to Argentina 7-1. Because in Argentina were the eventual finalists, and the United States beat Yugoslavia 3-1 in the 3rd place match.
For the 3rd place game. Well,
there was an American soccer player named Bert Patenaude. He is the first ever player to score a World Cup hat trick of all time, and is an American by the name of Bert Patenaude. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
There was a golden age of American soccer, and it was in the 20s.
Okay, but if we kind of discount those very far gone times. This
was 100 years ago, whatever. 90 years ago, whatever.
This is the most talented U.S. men's national team that I can remember.
Apparently there was some story, I believe it was either 30 or 34, where like a U.S. player got injured, and then the physio ran on, and then he tripped, and a bottle of ether he had in his bag just exploded, like just fell, and then everyone just passed out. Everyone near him just passed out of the ether gas. That happened during one of the games. I wish I could learn. I need to Google more about that. But it was a fun incident. But anyway, the 1930, and then 20 years later, the 1950 U.S. team beat England 1-0, and then many years later they tied England 1-1. So when the English fans are cocky against the U.S. team, it's like, we played you twice, we beat you once, you tied once. You could be cocky when you beat us, okay? Okay, Englishmen, English fans. And if you're telling me England can beat the U.S. now, they can, but we can win too. I think I think we got a shot for that. So the U.S. team is as talented as it's ever been. That's true. However, they're still young. They're still figuring stuff out. teams of the past, like Bruce Arena's teams, Bob Bradley's teams, they were less talented, but they were more figured out, and they were more set in the way they played. You know what I mean? There was a period of time where Dos A CERO was an expectation, and since Klinsmann has been coach, that stopped. Mexico regained its dominance, and we slowly have to sort of regain our dominance in the region, which I feel we did this past 6 months. So that's what I was getting at with that whole thing. But anyway, we had 2 great goals. The McKennie goal was a little fortuitous, but that happens.
Yeah. That happens. Then can we talk about the celebration? It was a little bit of a halting.
Which one?
The McKennie.
McKennie
does this, but it took him a long time to.
Yeah, you had to run the halfway point. Yeah.
Sort of ambling across the field, waving his arm sort of indecisively, given a lot of space.
Expecto Patronum. We need to come up with a soccer spell. It should be a Doso A CERO or something. It should be like Golo O Scoro or something. Golo Scoro. That's what it
was. I don't know. It struck me as a little halting, this celebration.
No, Bjorn, you just don't get it. There's a big party. Everyone's there. Props up to Cincinnati for being a great host. Finally, a pro-U.S. crowd.
But
honestly, McKennie could have spent 3 more minutes running around the field. I would have been perfectly fine with that.
It just didn't. Well, all right.
Well, after Pulisic scored, him and McKennie did this weird, like, mirroring each other thing. I don't know if you saw that, because they must have pre-planned and rehearsed a mirror.
Oh, this man in the
That's
man
the real celebration.
Thing.
And then apparently at the stadium they played Man in the Mirror right when the game ended.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
That's right.
It's a well-oiled machine, this U.S. men's national team. U.S. soccer they're working as a team. It's in unison. Everything is just clicking right now for this team.
It's in Eunice Musa. Does that make sense?
In unison? Unison?
Everything is in unison Musa. All right? Everything is in unison Musa right now. I mean, Musa, he has so many moments we just dribbled through everybody and no one can take the ball from him. He's 18. I'm a kid in a candy store. These guys are going to get better and better and better. And Yunus Musa's English is going to get better and better too as he spends more time with the U.S. players. Jordan Pifat could learn the language. We're just going to get more. We're just going to go from strength to strength. I'm really excited.
And
other things.
I would just want to talk about Christian Pulisic for a second. I think he got a little bit. I mean, especially in recent games, it seemed a little bit like the team was almost better off without him. Like, especially in this qualifying cycle, he seemed to sort of over dribble a little bit, so it was just a great performance.
Better off without him. Without him.
There was some. I mean, you could make the point. What was the last game he started before his injury? I think it was it the Honduras game where he had to come off? It was.
Where he got injured. That's right. And
he did not have a good first half in that game. He was just sort of trying to take everybody on by himself, and
so him and Reyna did that, but that could be. I mean, honestly, that Pulisic and Reyna have a thing. They take on players 1 to 2, and then maybe 3, and then they go on to player 4 and 5. And 4 and 5 always clobber them, take the ball, and then they lose it.
Yeah,
it happened with both those guys. Now, I don't know if that's because Berhalter isn't giving them enough of a game plan up top, because at the same time, Pulisic would be like, we need new ideas, and blah, 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 blah. That was very disconcerting, but I don't know if that's the player or the coach or a combo of
It's got to all be Greg's fault. I'm sorry. That's right.
Well, no, it doesn't got to be Greg, but I'm saying... Yeah, that's bad. Like, the reason Tim Weah had such a great game, because him and Berhalter sat down and looked at video game footage for hours. Excuse me, game footage, not video game footage. It was game footage for hours, and Greg Berhalter was like, this is what you do that's good, this is what you do that's bad. They got pinpoint on what made him effective, and he was like that on overdrive today, and that's Greg Berhalter. You don't just throw players out there. You throw them out there, and you lean into their strengths. So... there is a room for Pulisic and Reyna. Maybe we haven't quite figured it out yet.
No, for sure, there's room for him. What I was going to say is that it was just impressive the way he came off the bench and put himself in the position that Pepe was supposed to be in, really, for that header. And Taylor Twellman said this on the broadcast, which I didn't realize. He is he has scored more goals than anyone in CONCACAF over the last however many
really?
years since his arrival. Yeah, he has 11 goals in qualifying in games that matter, qualifying and Gold Cup, etc. Yeah. And so this was my little, Christian Pulisic appreciation moment.
Yeah, Pulisic's the real deal. If he never came off that bench, that game might have ended 0-0.
It's possible.
It had that kind of feeling, don't you think?
I mean,
there was that spark. He could finish. Pepe was having kind of a rough game. Pepe is a great finisher in the box. And there was one moment maybe he should have done better on. But other than that, he really needs to develop more. Like, when he's out on that field, going in deep, getting the ball, he struggles. He fails doing that. Pepe succeeds when he's in the box, he positions well, and he can finish. And they had his number. They frickin' crowded Pepe. Pepe wasn't given an inch today. So it needed the quality of Pulisic to finally break through. Pulisic came off the bench and provided that quality to, Brendan Aronson, as great as he is, Brendan Aronson doesn't run in the box and do headers like that. Right. Pulisic did that. It was a very Clint Dempsey-esque, shadow forward, run in the box, critical sniper finish type move that he pulled off. And Pulisic can do that. Our other wingers maybe not so much. So, I think when Pulisic is healthy, he should be our starting winger, definitely. But that's a whole nother story, how long he can stay healthy, I imagine tomorrow he'll probably come off the bench again. I don't know if he'll start. I would be surprised if he starts. And if he starts, he'd only do 60 minutes or so. He'd probably then he wouldn't do a full 90. Thomas Tuchel would get mad. Not that we care, but Thomas Tuchel wants his minutes as limited as possible.
He wants his boy to be protected. I mean, this was a big win also just in terms of math because of the way Panama came back in their game. It's still very tight, and if the U.S. U.S. is now at 14, right, and so they have a 3-point
tied at
lead.
Top with a +2. I think
but really,
+5 goal difference.
What matters
Panama
is
had a crazy comeback.
Yeah, crazy comeback for Panama, and what matters is the distance to the fourth place, right? Because the first 3 places qualify. So, right now that's still only 3 points.
The crazy thing that's going to happen is Mexico is going to lose to Canada up in Edmonton. When Mexico loses to Canada tomorrow or whenever they play, and I think maybe Panama will win, there's a good chance that Mexico will be tied for 4th place.
And Tata Martino will be coaching FC Cincinnati next season.
Hey, I would love that. The FC Cincinnati needs some sort of turnaround, and I think that's a great... He's like, I'm sick and tired of coming to the stadium and losing. I need to win this time. Pardon me as I pour myself some water. And I don't think they're going to get rid of him. He's too expensive. But, it's not looking good for Tata if they finish, if they're 4th place this week. They struggle. The Mexicans struggle in the cold. And that's the reason we do our game in Ohio during the wintertime. And the Canadians are like, oh, yeah? Ohio in November? Hold my beer. Welcome to Edmonton in November. You know what I mean? I mean, Edmonton, you saw, not only is that stadium too small, it was very thin. It was almost like they were playing at Yankee Stadium if you saw the game. We saw the highlights. It was a very thin field, but cold. The Mexican team is not. They're going to wear 2 long-sleeve shirts. They're not going to want to come out of their dressing room. I think it's going to be a frosty 1-0 win for Canada, and I think Mexico will have a rough go at it this time around. They'll be fine. They'll get their points later and so forth. But the road against the U.S. and the road against Canada are 2 tough games that I don't think they were ready for. The other sad thing about Mexico is they just seem a little aged. As young as the U.S. is, Mexico's got the same old players, and they're just not playing with the same old passion,
A little bit long in the tooth, that squad.